It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2012 American Foreign Service Association AFSA Awards Ceremony. My name is Ian Houston. I'm the Executive Director of AFSA, and today is very much a special day. We warmly welcome you, friends and colleagues, and certainly it's a pleasure to associate with you. We could have perhaps had this ceremony outdoors on the terrace. It's such a wonderful day. Perhaps next year. On behalf of AFSA, I certainly express our gratitude for the use of this lovely room, this beautiful room, bearing the name of a great American, Benjamin Franklin, whose ideals we celebrate, of course, next week, but whose ideals also in spirit we observe today as part of these awards that will be presented. I recognize certainly former AFSA governing board members, and there are many of them. Once I started going, there were too many. Former AFSA presidents, and certainly current AFSA board members. Thank you for all being here and for what you do. In addition, AFSA welcomes members of the media. We welcome BN Services and the video production unit who is covering this event. And thank you for the role that you all play in bringing attention to diplomacy development and to the Foreign Service. So thank you very much for your presence and your support and the roles that each of you play in supporting AFSA. So it is now my pleasure to turn the program over to Susan Johnson, the elected president of AFSA. Susan.
Well, thank you very much, Ian, and a warm welcome to all of you on this special occasion. Today we are very honored to have with us Deputy Secretary of State Bill Burns and Assistant Secretary Johnny Carson to present the Lifetime Contributions to American Diplomacy Award to Ambassador William Lacy Swing. So a warm welcome to you, Deputy Secretary Burns, and please accept an enormous thank you from AFSA and the Foreign Service for the great work that you have done and are doing. AFSA is truly honored to have you as one of our lifetime members. I would like to welcome and thank the Director General of the Foreign Service and Director of Human Resources, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, for her support and assistance for this event. Ambassador Thomas Greenfield is another long-time member of AFSA, and I look forward very much to the opportunity to work with her as Director General. And I greatly appreciate the continuous work of her superb team, some of whom I see here, including Steve. Thanks for coming, Steve. It goes without saying that I welcome Pat Kennedy, who we are very fortunate to have as Undersecretary for Management. Pat and Linda have been always strong supporters of AFSA, and we thank you both very much. It's also a special pleasure to welcome and recognize all the former AFSA award winners who could attend today, including two former recipients of AFSA's Lifetime Contributions to American Diplomacy Award, the Honorable Ambassador Tom Boyatt and the Honorable Ambassador Bruce Laingen. Now, just a few words about history. This ceremony marks the 45th anniversary of AFSA's award program, which began in the late 60s with the William R. Rifkin and the Averill Harriman Awards for Constructive Dissent. Through the years, AFSA has added additional awards. I understand that Dwight Kramer, who was the chair of the AFSA Awards Committee when the Dissent Awards started, and Ambassador John Limbert, the current chair of the Awards Committee, are also here today. Thank you both. This year, we will be giving out the William R. Rifkin Award for Constructive Dissent by mid-level officers. We're pleased to have some past William R. Rifkin Award winners in the audience today, including Tex Harris, Lionel Rosenblatt, Ambassador Ed Peck, and Ambassador Tom Boyatt. Though AFSA received a number of nominations for the other Dissent Awards, this year they did not meet our established criteria. AFSA's Dissent program is unique, and we will be exploring ways to strengthen it further. This afternoon, we will also present 4 awards for exemplary performance. The AFSA Post Representative of the Year Award, the Avis Bolin Award, the Nelson B. Delavan Award, and the M. Juanita Guest Award. These 4 performance awards recognize Foreign Service personnel and family members at their best, contributing actively to our collective corporate mission, shoring up morale at post, providing unique and compassionate service to Foreign Service colleagues and families while advancing the interests of the Foreign Service and of the United States. Thank you again for your presence today. Now, it's my great privilege and honor to introduce Deputy Secretary Bill Burns. Bill has had an extraordinary Foreign Service career, serving as Ambassador to Russia and Jordan, as Assistant Secretary for Near Eastern Affairs, at the NSC, as the Acting Director for the Policy Planning Staff, and he's collected just about every department award there is. Before assuming his current post and current position, Bill served as the Undersecretary for Political Affairs. AFSA is pleased to have a career Foreign Service officer at the highest level of our Department of State. Bill's presence here today recognizes the role that AFSA plays in honoring lifetime service to American diplomacy, the courage to dissent, and excellence in performance, and we thank him. Bill?
As a man whose checkered past includes 30 years as a proud member, I speak from personal experience when I say to all of my AFSA colleagues here today, thank you. Thank you for honoring and taking care of all those remarkable diplomats who came before us. Thank you for advocating for today's diplomats, and thank you for reaching out to tomorrow's. AFSA is a critical member of the Foreign Service family, and all of us are grateful for what you do daily basis to advance peace and prosperity, to serve the American people, and to improve the lives of people all over the world. I know the sacrifices and demands that go into life in the Foreign Service and just how much is on all of our plates these days, from the turn of the Middle East to the rise of the Far East. So it's a special pleasure to take a moment to step back from the daily challenges to take stock of what we accomplish. And I'm delighted to recognize the remarkable achievements of some of the Foreign Service's finest men and women. You will all receive your awards later in the ceremony, but I wanted to congratulate each of you myself. Joshua Polacek, who took the term out of the box thinking more literally than most, and urged us in the Dissent cable to think beyond protecting the four walls of the embassy to serve our larger mission. He is the sole recipient of this year's Dissent Award. Jeff Jacob, whose tireless and courageous advocacy in support of colleagues serving in Embassy Kabul earned him the title of AFSA Post Representative of the Year. Leila Gupta, a Foreign Service family member who founded the first library in the Mathare Valley region of Kenya, giving hundreds of Kenyan school children access to books for the first time. Sarah Hurst Butler, whose work in post-earthquake Port-au-Prince helped turn a hardship post into a home and a supportive, family-friendly community. And finally, James Velez, an outstanding Foreign Service Office Management Specialist who seems to have performed every single job in Mazar-e-Sharif at all hours in multiple languages. This is a group that has gone above and beyond the call of duty and offered bold and creative solutions to perennial problems. Their peers, the host countries, and America have all benefited from their contributions. Congratulations and thank you to each one of you. Let me also take a minute to offer a few words about Bill Swing, an old friend of mine and this year's winner of AFSA's award for lifetime contributions to American diplomacy. Bill once told Nelson Mandela, "Sometimes I feel like we are in physical contact with history." And it's remarkable to think just how much American diplomatic history Bill Swing has touched and shaped. This is a man who began public service as a young Foreign Service officer in South Africa when Nelson Mandela first went to prison in the early 1960s, and then served as ambassador to South Africa when Mandela was finally set free nearly 3 decades years later. Bill was already an ambassador when I joined the Foreign Service over 30 years ago and remains a trusted expert and friend to Africa and Haiti. It's humbling to realize that this is a man whose service at the State Department spanned the period from just after the Cuban Missile Crisis to just before 9/11. So it should surprise no one that when Bill left the Foreign Service, he scarcely paused before throwing himself into a second career, this time working for international organizations. As the United Nations envoy to Western Sahara, as the Secretary General Special Representative in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which he knows so well, and now as Director General of the International Organization for Migration. Through it all, Bill has remained an idealist and a doer, unflappable and gracious, a born diplomat, and a consummate North Carolina gentleman. Under his leadership, the International Organization for Migration has responded quickly and effectively to crises in Haiti, Libya, and Pakistan. He has made sure that those who leave their home countries behind do not also lose their rights, security, and dignity. On behalf of Secretary Clinton and the President, we are pleased to announce our support for Bill's candidacy for a second term as Director General. He has our admiration for all he has already accomplished and our steadfast support for all that he hopes to accomplish in the years ahead. Today, Bill Swing joins the elite ranks of past winners such as Ridgway, George H.W. Bush, Tom Pickering, and George Shultz. No one deserves it more. Congratulations, Bill, and thank you for your lifetime of sacrifice and achievement. From all that I've already said, it should be clear that Bill Swing is a man who needs no introduction, and yet he's also a man with no shortage of admiring colleagues eager to introduce him. So I'm pleased to share the honor of doing just that with Assistant Secretary Johnny Carson, who will convey AFSA's lifetime contributions to American diplomacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary Burns, for those very warm and appreciative words of the man that we're about to honor this afternoon. Thank you to AFSA for giving me an opportunity to provide a few remarks on this momentous occasion when we mark the career and contributions of an extraordinarily diplomat and public servant. Ambassador William Lacy Swing has devoted his life to advancing the cause of peace and stability to some of the most difficult and challenging places in the world. In Africa, where he has spent most of his career, Bill was involved in managing some of the most troubling and troublesome issues we have seen over the last 30 years. His service as ambassador to Liberia during the tumultuous period after the assassination of President Robert Tolbert and the rise of Sergeant Samuel Doe, his work in South Africa during the final days of apartheid, in Nigeria during a succession of military coups, and later in the Democratic Republic of the Congo as we witnessed the last days of Mobutu Sese Seko and the emergence of a horrendous conflict known as Africa's First World War, a term that Bill Swing coined in one of his many first-person cables. In addition to his 5 ambassadorships in Africa, Bill also spent 5 years as ambassador to Haiti from 1993 to 1998. During that time, a U.S.-led multinational force returned exiled Haitian President Aristide to office 3 years after a military coup had ousted him. In all of these assignments, Bill Swing demonstrated the traits that have made him famous: cool, unflappable, indefatigable, knowledgeable, analytically rigorous, and a skilled interlocutor willing to listen to all sides, but also prepared to take tough decisions. Outside of work, a younger Bill Swing was an avid tennis player and a strong supporter of morale-boosting activities for embassy personnel, a concern his wife Ewan shared with him. Bill, as many of you know who've traveled around Africa, is also something of a rock star. In South Africa, people used to echo the words of the famous and late Duke Ellington's jazz classic when they spoke of Bill Swing. They would all say, if you don't mean a thing, if it ain't got that swing. After one of his significant interventions with government officials in South Africa, the Johannesburg Sunday Times ran a political cartoon with those words underneath it. Everyone knew that it was Bill Swing that the cartoon was about. Music seems to have followed Bill around as well to the DRC. He was such a popular figure in the Democratic Republic of the Congo during his assignment as the Secretary General's Special Representative that a musical group produced a popular and much admired video known as Coco Swing, featuring a singer with white hair and a white mustache. You can find this video on YouTube today. It's worthy of seeing. Again, his popularity goes before him and remains long after he is left. Ambassador John Yates, who is with us today, well known to lots of Bill's friends who worked in Africa, speaks of Bill's energy and activism by describing his capacity to multitask, claiming that he cannot recall an instance where he was with Bill on a drive or sitting in a meeting where Bill was not doing something else simultaneously, preparing remarks, writing memos and thank you notes, or developing strategy for the next tough issue. Just the thought of this is tiring, but it speaks to the qualities that drove Bill during his 38 years in the Foreign Service. Bill has always been committed to excellence in everything that he does, and he has always expected no less from his colleagues. Bill would often say that the essence of leadership is the ability to motivate and inspire others to accomplish a common task. Ambassador Ed Perkins, who was Bill's deputy in Liberia, recalls Bill's unwavering commitment to high standards in getting the facts and reporting them accurately. Bill and Ed were a formidable team in Liberia and again later in the Director General's office. In their long friendship, Ed said one thing always stood out about Bill Swing: his commitment to excellence and his fairness towards people. Following his Foreign Service career, Bill moved to the United Nations, where he first served as the Special Representative for the Secretary General to the Western Sahara. Following that assignment, he took on problems in the DRC for a second time as the Secretary General's Special Representative in Kinshasa. In that capacity, Bill assumed responsibility for leading the largest UN peacekeeping mission in the world, in a country that had been torn asunder by 4 decades of poor political leadership and 10 years of civil war. Today, Bill serves the global community as the Director General of the International Organization for Migration, extending services to the global community, extending compassion to the billions of migrants internally displaced around the world. Seemingly, Bill's work is never done, and if the decision of the international community to give him a second term in that position is fulfilled, he will carry on. Bill's work is brought benefit and happiness to many around the world, and we are thankful for his tireless commitment and his extraordinary sense of duty and public service. Bill is a consummate diplomat, and he has inspired many of us by his hard work, his commitment to public service. He has been a wonderful colleague, an inspiration, and a great friend. It is my pleasure and sincere sincere honor to invite Bill to come forward and accept the AFSA Award for lifetime contributions to American diplomacy.
Boy, after all that, what do I say? I'm sure I recognize myself as the Deputy Secretary, Madam President, Mr. Assistant Secretary, dear colleagues and friends. There's only one way to begin my remarks, and that is to say thank you very much to AFSA and to the Awards Committee for so honoring me. And I'm overwhelmed with gratitude, but also with a great deal of humility. And I'm particularly pleased to associate my wife, Joan, with the award, because she has always been the wind beneath my sails, and she's also brought me back to reality many times, because she believes, as perhaps others in the audience do, that behind every successful man stands a surprised wife. I'd also like to thank our son Brian, who's now a Cape Town resident for the past 20 years. I left, but he stayed. And our daughter Gabrielle, who has been in UN peacekeeping for the last 15 years. I followed her, she didn't follow me. And she's now currently doing peacekeeping with UNAMA in Afghanistan. So I would just say a couple of introductory remarks, and I want to make 3 points. First of all, I'm deeply humbled because both my wife and I know that there are so many others, some close friends, a number of them here today, who are so much more deserving than we in terms of their own contributions. We've not served in the large posts or dealt with the major issues, so it's particularly humbling to be so recognized. The second introductory remark, just to simply say that I think all of us know we stand on the shoulders of those who went before, and also those who were with us at the time, and all of those over the past 5 decades in Africa who've supported us and made us look a lot better than we deserve to look. I think particularly of James Zeka, who was my OMS and personal assistant for some 22 years, and I think probably the finest international public servant that either I or Ambassador Perkins know. So I'm very grateful for that half century that I've been able to provide service since joining in 1963. A time when Washington was still reeling from the McCarthy period, and everybody was over at Arlington Tower studying Vietnamese, it seemed. A prevailing atmosphere then that at times seems occasionally to resurface in today's Washington. I would just like to also say a word of thanks to the U.S. government and the Foreign Service, because it's really I rather than you. It's I who should be thanking our government for giving me the opportunity to serve for these past nearly 50 years. Mine, like yours, has been the great good fortune to be able to serve our country and our people, in my case, in an admittedly very modest manner, and in many very minor support roles. But throughout all of it, the Foreign Service and this department have been unfailingly generous to me. I'd like to use the few remaining minutes just to renew my gratitude to our government and to this department and this service for making possible things for me that I never dreamed possible, or I could even dreamed of as a young farm boy growing up in the South. And if I were to be asked, would you do it all over again? The answer is resoundingly yes. I wouldn't want to, because it might come out even worse. But yes, I would do it over again, and I say that for, there are many reasons. I'd just cite 3 and then quickly sit down. First of all, Foreign Service gives us the opportunity to serve and to serve globally. I'm a colleague of mine in personnel at the time in the 80s, just after the U.S. Civil Service Commission had been renamed OPM, the Office of Personnel Management. He said to me one day, service used to be our middle name. And I think we should never forget that service is our last name in the Foreign Service. That is our major function. And about 3 years ago in a similar setting, I tried to make the point that this diplomacy is the indispensable public service. I still believe this to be the case, and it surely has to be a consolation to all of us gathered here today, that amidst globalization and the digital revolution, diplomacy has not only survived, it is daily being revalidated as an indispensable discipline and art in managing relations in our very complicated world. Second reason I say yes, I'll do it all over again is because of the opportunity that the Foreign Service gives us for lifelong learning. Yes, learning languages, yes, continuing to learn history and to keep up to date, but also a chance to continue to learn from our experiences. We just came back from Haiti late last night, and we've already discovered some of the things that we did wrong in the wake of the horrible earthquake and the cholera outbreak. We just reassessed what we did wrong in Libya. We took 250,000 migrant workers home, $125 million, 1,000 charter flights, 18 dangerous sea evacuations from Misrata and Tripoli, but we still made a lot of mistakes. And we must continue to learn from those, and that's what the Foreign Service is all about, continuing to try to perfect the art of what it is that we do. So I'm very grateful to have had that opportunity. We learn from our failures, and I can cite you many of mine. I did here once before, 3 years ago, but that's an important part. And finally, the third most important point for me, and I was delighted Ambassador Carson used that phrase of Mr. Mandela, because he did once say in my presence, just after leaving prison, that he felt at that moment as if he were in physical contact with history. And for me, that is the essence of what brings us to this great service that we have in common. We are among the privileged few who are called to a noble task, sometimes as observers, sometimes as reporters, as witnesses, sometimes as actors. In the end, the only thing they'll ask is, well, was this person a good Macbeth or a mediocre Macbeth? Or do they remember that we even played Macbeth? So we're on that stage for a short period, but it's wonderful because at that time, wherever we are, we're at the epicenter of those events there. And these are events that more often than not affect the lives of many people. I was able to report to President Martelli in Haiti yesterday, for the first time, the number of people living in temporary shelter in Haiti now is below 400,000. Still a lot of people, but it was 1.5 million. So we have to continue to work to try to help people. So in conclusion, first of all, diplomacy remains a noble undertaking in public service to which we fortunate few have been privileged to be called. Secondly, the Foreign Service embarks us upon simultaneously a lifetime of continuous learning. And thirdly, this remarkable career offers us unprecedented opportunities to live history and impose its responsibilities to be worthy of our calling. So I apologize for the length of that. My mother always said I couldn't make a short speech, and I wouldn't want to disappoint her. Thank you very much.
I would just like to say congratulations again, Ambassador Swing, and Bill, thank you. I know that you've got to leave for other appointments, but thanks so much for joining us. It's moments like this and listening to these three gentlemen that just remind us, if we need any reminder, of what a privilege it is to be in public service, to be employees and members of the State Department of State and to be members of the Foreign Service, because partly just the fantastic caliber of people that we get a chance to work with and serve with every day. So I'm always moved when I listen to three exemplars like we've just had here on the podium speaking and reminding us of the value of diplomacy and the privilege that we all have to serve in the Department of State and in the Foreign Service. So thanks again for all of you for being here. And let me move to the next part of this ceremony. The next award is AFSA's Constructive Dissent Award, which recognizes Foreign Service employees who have demonstrated intellectual courage, initiative, and integrity in the context of constructive dissent. AFSA is proud to honor constructive dissent and the ability to express it appropriately. It takes courage for individuals to dissent, and it's important that they have the environment to do so. Dissent is fundamental to the health of any institution. Where it does not exist, the institution loses vibrancy, morale is undermined, and effectiveness damaged. What distinguishes the professional is the willingness to speak out after careful study and reflection, if convinced of the value and importance of changing course or of an alternative policy. J. William Fulbright said of dissent, "In a democracy, dissent is an act of faith. Like medicine, the test of its value is not in its taste, but in its effect." President Dwight D. Eisenhower said, "Here in America, we are descended in blood and in spirit from revolutionists and rebels, men and women who dare to dissent from accepted doctrine. As their heirs, may we never confuse honest dissent with disloyal subversion." Constructive and well-reasoned dissent is rooted in our fundamental national values. AFSA honors and seeks to promote a culture that not only tolerates, but encourages informed, thoughtful, professional, and principled argument over issues. Ambassador Thomas Boyatt, one of our lifetime contributors to American diplomacy recipients, has said it well. Dissent is about the national interest, not about individual worldviews. AFSA Dissent Awards recognize Foreign Service personnel who offer constructive criticism and alternative policy and management options. It is important for us in the foreign affairs agencies to give the voices of advocacy or disagreement the attention and recognition they deserve. I now would like to call the Honorable Robert Rifkin to the podium to present the Robert R. Rifkin Award. This award is presented in memory of his father, the late Ambassador William R. Rifkin.
Thank you, Susan, for articulating those values that many of us have tried to articulate them, often not so well as we have today. I've described on these occasions in prior years how my mother established the Rifkin Award as the first of what became the AFSA Dissent Awards after my father's death at post in Dakar in 1967. And as Susan mentioned, the need to recognize and encourage constructive dissent as an essential tool of patriotism has not diminished in the decades since. Bill Rifkin was a fervent patriot, Midwesterner, and a results-oriented pragmatist. He had no patience for what he called yes men and groupthink, and our panel of judges reflects that perspective. My family and I, and my son Alexander, Bill Rifkin's grandson, is helping represent us here today, remain proud, along with AFSA and the Herder and Harriman families, in paying tribute to the best of our Foreign Service officers. And we really should all redouble our efforts next year to identify deserving nominees not only for the Rifkin Award, but for the Harriman and Herder Awards as well. I recently read my father's words. Bill Rifkin wrote of working in Geneva and Brussels in early 1965 with Christian Herder, then Special Representative for Trade Relations, after a remarkable career as Congressman, Governor of Massachusetts, Undersecretary of State, and Secretary of State. And my father observed that he was among the most courtly gentlemen I shall ever meet, and despite his air of Brahmin gentility, as hard as stone if the situation warrants. Joshua Polachek is a worthy successor to a great tradition of clear-eyed American diplomacy. Whether our diplomats operate under the Soviet or the Al-Qaeda threat, we must encourage them to keep asking whether our response is proportionate, effective, and in our overall national interest. On behalf of the Rifkin family, I congratulate Mr. Polachek for his patriotism and dedicated service.
Robert, and I'd like to say that I'm receiving this award not for myself, but for the many members of both the Foreign Service and the other foreign affairs agencies, both civilian and military, who put themselves on the line every day, whether we're talking about Mexico and the drug violence there, or the Al-Qaeda threat across the Muslim majority world and the world at large. And I'd like to say that this award, I felt compelled to do this not for me, but for the frustrations that I felt, but because I believe that it's in our national interest as Americans to continue our values of openness and to take those values overseas and represent them in whatever country we're in. So I want to... I'm honored, and again, I don't feel worthy that I'm the one standing here before the lectern. I can tell you that hundreds of my colleagues have reached out to me since winning this award, and it's the contributions of them that have really helped me. I'd particularly like to recognize Marie Richards, my former supervisor who has just left as the Consul General in Peshawar, where she had to face these issues day to day. She and I had a long dialogue about how do you face these issues when there are people trying to kill and capture American diplomats, but it is still our job to represent our values and our national interests overseas. So I want to thank all the members of the Foreign Service for this opportunity to serve, and particularly Mr. Assistant Secretary, Mr. Secretary actually just had to leave, I believe, for a very difficult discussion about another Middle East crisis that's going on. So thank you again. I don't feel worthy of this award, so I'd like to thank the other people who have made this possible.
We will now give out the 4 performance awards. And the first performance award today is that of the AFSA Post Representative of the Year. This award is given to the AFSA Post Representative who most diligently represents AFSA and its members overseas, demonstrating initiative, good judgment, and energetic service to the community. This year, Jeff Jacobs of U.S. Embassy Kabul is the recipient of this award. Mr. Jacobs is not able to attend the ceremony as he's en route to his new post in Manila. So I will read from his letter accepting the award. Thank you all, and my apologies for not being able to attend. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a sincere honor to be named AFSA's Post Representative of the Year. The credit should be given to those in AFSA who provided the guidance on the issues. I enjoyed assisting my colleagues during my assignment in Kabul, and I look forward to being active with AFSA in my next post. Thank you very much. Respectfully, Jeff Jacobs. The next 3 awards honor exemplary performance, those who have gone above and beyond in their roles. These individuals are being recognized for their contribution to the mission of the United States diplomacy worldwide. We're starting today with the Avis Bolin Award. I invite Meta Beecroft, representing the daughter of the late Avis Bolin, Ambassador Avis T. Bolin, to come forward to present the award to this year's winner.
The Avis Boland Award was established by Pamela Harriman in memory of the late Avis Boland, wife of the late Ambassador Charles Boland. It is given to an eligible family member of a Foreign Service employee whose relations with the American and foreign communities at a Foreign Service post have done the most to advance American interests in the tradition of the late Avis Boland. This year's winner, Leela Gupta, has given very generously of her own professional skills and her personal resources to help mitigate the effects of civil war, natural disaster, and HIV/AIDS. Her efforts are important not only because of their value and what they accomplished in and of themselves, but because of their value as informal or parallel diplomacy. As you know, the concept of volunteerism is certainly not recognized everywhere. Volunteerism shows Americans at their very generous best and illustrates that we care enough about the people around us to try to help, even if doing so is certainly not obligatory. On behalf of Ambassador Avis T. Boland, daughter of Ambassador Charles Boland, I am delighted to present the 2012 Avis Boland Award.
Good afternoon, everybody. This award was established in the name of my late mother, former owner of Clements Worldwide, recognizing community liaison officers who have demonstrated outstanding dedication, energy, and imagination in assisting families of Americans serving at overseas posts. If you haven't met Sarah, the award winner, she's quite a young lady. She got the short straw in going to Port-au-Prince, and after the earthquake devastation there, had to basically start over and reestablish the community liaison office there. She's a very, very humble person, very soft-spoken, but clearly carries a very good spirit. So one of the things she did, which is part of the warmth of her character, was to establish a playground. And she's very proud of that. We're all very proud of that. And I know she was really essentially involved with 6 children at that point, and that's now up to 31, I believe. So congratulations. And so this year, the And We Need a Guest Award goes to Sarah first. Sarah.
for sponsoring the award. Your kindness and generosity is greatly appreciated. Serving as close, perhaps one of the most difficult and yet rewarding jobs I've ever had. Serving in this community that had just gone through such a catastrophe was truly my unique experience. So I do want to take a few minutes to thank a couple of people who have helped me along the way. First, the Family Liaison Office, who manages the CLOE programs worldwide. Their constant guidance was really a springboard for me to try to rejuvenate the embassy community down in Haiti. And second, CLOEs would not be successful without the involvement of the front office. And so I do want to thank Ambassador Singer, DCM Lindwall, and DCM and Mrs. Split for completely supporting me every step of the way. And third, to my colleagues at Embassy Prince, I'm completely amazed by the human spirit and by their ability to find joy and comfort with each other after, in the midst of such a great tragedy. We did this together, and I'm so proud of everything that we accomplished. And finally, to my friends and family who came to support me here, unwavering love is not forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And I'm just going to ask for another round of applause to all the CLOEs and all the work that they do around the world. I now invite Caldwell Harrop, son of Ambassador William Harrop, to the podium to present the Delavan Award.
Good afternoon. I'm here to present the Nelson Delavan Award, which was established in honor of my grandfather, to recognize a Foreign Service Office Management Specialist who has made extraordinary contributions to effectiveness, professionalism, and morale. My father, Bill Harrop, spent 40 years as an FSO and usually presents this award, but he couldn't be here today. But I grew up in the Foreign Service, and I was an FSO myself for 7 years, so I'm well aware of the absolutely critical role that office management specialists play in the success of our diplomatic efforts around the world. The winner of the Delavan Award this year is Jim Dallas, who gave extraordinary service at the German-led Regional Command North Headquarters platform in Mazar-e-Sharif, Afghanistan. Let me read the citation suggested by his nominating officer. For sustained, outstanding performance, providing office management, maintenance, and logistical support to the offices of the U.S. Senior Civilian Representative and Provincial Reconstruction teams. Jim excelled under arduous and often difficult working conditions. His steadfast professional abilities, dedication, and loyalty in support of Embassy Kabul's mission goals has had a profound positive impact on the day-to-day life support issues of assigned Chief of Mission personnel deployed on the frontiers of freedom. And let me just read one little item from the very lengthy submission, nominating submission, that really struck me because it made me pause and think about some of the hardships that are part of the daily lives of so many of our Foreign Services officers overseas. Jim designed, managed, and built a 100-yard long gravel walkway from the container residences to the detached shower and toilet facilities. To me, that sounds like more like a Peace Corps Foreign Service. But then he also installed a cable TV system, vastly improving morale, as you can imagine. Jim, could you step up here, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Secretary, Susan, Caldwell, distinguished guests, and colleagues. Wow, now I somewhat know what it feels like to win an Oscar. seriously, I am honored to be standing before you today receiving this award. 1 year ago, I arrived at a remote German-led NATO air base in northern Afghanistan and joined the regional platform in Mazar-e-Sharif. I had won out in this position because our former deputy principal officer had taken a keen interest in my resume. He firmly believed that my military background, German language skills, and prior NATO experience would benefit Team Mazar in this difficult operational environment. Well, he was right, and this is the result. I'd like to give personal thanks to Mark Biedingmeyer for giving me this rare opportunity. I would also like to thank my wife Ilona and son Magnus for their steadfast support during my tour. And a special thanks to the Flows office for organizing the medal and certificate which was sent to my son by the secretary. It was much appreciated and had a big impact on Magnus and his classmates. Thank you very much.
Around the world are for our missions. And so I'd like to extend on behalf of all of us a great thanks to you, James, and to all of the OMSers around who are serving us so well. So I want to thank you all for coming today. This is the close of the AFSA award ceremony, but I would like to invite you to stay to celebrate the occasion, to help yourself to beverages at the back of the room, and to connect with old friends and colleagues. And we have the room, I think, till 5 o'clock. So enjoy. Thank you all.